Introduce to us Dr. Lennox R. Adams, who will be taking us into this final session of today, dubbed What Did the Doctor Say? And we're going to hear exactly what the doctor has to say this afternoon. So please help me make welcome Dr. Adams to share with us this afternoon.
Good afternoon. Thank you for allowing me to be here with you. I think the organizers got it right by having a session like this after lunch, because I don't know what else will keep you awake after lunch. And even now, I still have to try to keep you awake. But I am assuming that we will be talking about something or things that you might be interested in. And if I am wrong, then you can tell me afterwards. I remember when I was growing up, there was a little nursery rhyme, part of which goes, "What a little boy is made of," and frogs and snails and puppy dog tails. You remember that? You don't have that in your school? Frogs and snails and puppy dog tails. And might I add a whole lot of otherwise. But I remember those days. We have grown in a society, in a West Indian society, in a Caribbean society, where sex and sexuality is never far from the surface. The old people used to try and hide it and use all kinds of slangs and sayings and so on, but you still got the idea. For example, if my mother wanted to say somebody was pregnant, she would say, "I see she look a little bit long-sided." No. I don't. She look a little long-sided. Yes. Or somebody say, "Well, yeah, she gone." I know gone where. But we got to understand what things meant. And the unfortunate thing is that sometimes in our growing up, having not been exposed to all the realities of our sexuality, we sometimes have problems as we grow older. But if you were to be honest with me, you would be the first to admit that all of us, including you, have had some struggles with our sexuality at some point or another. And you've suddenly gone quiet. Yes, all of us at some point in our lives have had struggles with our sexuality. Joseph had struggles with his sexuality. When Potiphar's wife came to him and presented to him on a platter what he should have, he had to struggle with his own humanity and with his own sexuality. I don't know if you remember that Job had to struggle with his own sexuality. Around about chapter 30 or 31, in his zeal and his desire to follow God, he said, "I have made a covenant with my eye not to look lustfully at a girl." Chapter 31, verse 1. And that has been a verse that I have kept at the back of my mind all the time. I've made a covenant. He had to struggle with his sexuality. David struggled with his sexuality and lost. Saw a woman across there, and he was like, "Oh my goodness," and had her brought to him. My 2-year-old son, when he was 2 years, struggled with his sexuality. One morning we were in the bedroom, and he came running into the room. He said, "Daddy, Daddy, Daddy, my penis is too big." And I was just like, we were like, "What?" Jumped out of bed, looked around, and he was having an erection. It was his first recorded erection, and we had to kind of get him placated and said, "Okay, that's all right. It's going to happen to you all your life." And all of you know what I'm talking about. You wake up on the morning without any kind of thinking, anything at all, and suddenly, there it is. As a matter of fact, if it doesn't happen or it stops happening, you want to know if something is wrong. So we all, at some point, in time, have to struggle with, or at least come to terms with, our own sexuality. And you ought to be happy that the ladies are not here, because they might have a thing or two to tell you about your own sexuality. You see, we were born this way, made and shaped, and as you are familiar with the passage of Scripture, so fearfully and wonderfully made, so fearfully and wonderfully made that up to now we are still coming to terms with all the intricacies of the human body. And as I was looking back on some of the information on sexual differentiation and development, there are so many things that are being introduced now that we didn't know when I went to medical school in the last century. But I'm telling you, it is fascinating to note how even down at the cellular level, how things are going on in our bodies that make us different to the other half of the human race. Some people don't like but like for me to say that we all started off life as a female-like being. I say, boy, hey, now watch a moment there, boy. There's nothing part of me that is female. Okay, that's all right. I understand that. I didn't say female, I said female-like. We all started off like as it were, a blank template, a thing that was developing in our mother's womb, and suddenly somewhere between the 3rd and 6th week of life, something begins to happen in that little fetus that will forever change the course of life and perhaps of history. Somewhere between there, something starts working which produces, and I'm going to be as simple as I can, produces certain chemicals that starts to have an effect on this blank template, which, if it didn't happen, it will go on to develop in a particular way that will be unrecognizable to who you are right now. So you start seeing things, some changes. And that blank template begins to develop certain things that will then take over, function, and cause other things to happen. So by the 7th week of life, there is a primitive, what we call gonad, that begins to produce a chemical that is called testosterone. And after that, again, life will not be the same, history will not be the same. Because testosterone is a substance we call a hormone that makes us who we are today. It is that thing, that chemical in the body that transforms that fetus into the physical characteristics of a male child. So like I said, by the 7th week, we begin to notice differences, and by 3 months you can see well-developed sex organs, or if not well-developed, at least organs that can be defined as male or female. So that's kind of strange, because if that testosterone and all the other hormones did not begin to have an effect on that fetus, you would have developed into a female or a female-like organism. And we can look at that because there are times when that process, for some reason, fails to take place even in the presence of testosterone. And there are other chemicals in place which, if they don't have the effect, will cause some male-looking children to have things like a uterus and so on inside them, and they're not knowing. So, in other words, there are certain things that are turned on and turned off during your development, which, if everything goes right, and I can see because of your presence here that everything went right, if everything goes right, you become a man. And you're born as a man, and you develop as a man, and then just when you think it's all over, it's just starting to take place. Because testosterone stays with you for life. And you can be a man for life. You might, I don't know how many of us would be happy to know that you could have a child even to your 90s. It's not a problem. As long as the mechanisms are working properly, you can have a child until the day, you can father a child until the day you die. Now, let's just sit back for a while and think about that. Because there are certain ramifications, certain things that you have to come to terms with if that is the case. Now, let's, before we get to that, step back a bit and see what happens as far as the effect of testosterone on your body is concerned. Testosterone is that juice, is that little injection that keeps coming at us, that helps us to be the aggressive person we are. It is used for the development of our muscles. It is very important in our competitiveness. Men are very competitive. And so when we have that, it helps us to also develop certain other characteristics, which we call secondary sex characteristics. We get hairy. The voice gets deep. All right? The breasts do not develop usually. And all of those things are taking place in us. And for the person who is just growing up, can be very confusing. Now, most of us who are in our 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, and beyond, we have, to a certain extent, come to terms with that. But the 15-year-old and the 16-year-old who is just blossoming, it's a confusing time. And that's why 15 and 16-year-olds are so difficult to get along. I don't know if you've ever had children or grandchildren, 15 to 18. They think that they can conquer the world. Because it's during this time that your testosterone surge is at its greatest. Because you need it at that time. You need testosterone for the development of your sex organs. Because the penis and so on gets larger, erections get more frequent, your surges become more frequent, muscles develop bigger at that time, and suddenly the 13, 14-year-old slim little boy walking around suddenly becomes a broad-shouldered, slim waist, muscular guy with deep voice who thinks he is bigger and badder than you are. That's his testosterone talking. So you look... And it's normal. And it's normal. That's his testosterone talking, and it's normal. Now, we have to come to terms with that. Now, it's our duty, who are older and who understand, say, but wait, boy, you come, it's all right, take it easy. Because they are going to be rebellious at that time. They want to stand up tall and tell you that 2 and 2 makes 3, even though you know different. So during this teenage life, the testosterone levels begin to rise to a level that it allows the boy to transform into a man. And then pretty soon, he wakes up one morning and his whole bed is wet and he's like, what in the world? And this is not urine. Ever happened to you? Okay, don't answer. Don't answer the question. Don't answer the question. But that is also normal. That is also, it better be normal. Otherwise, I'll be asking myself, well, boy, I must have grown up somewhere, you know. It is normal. Because you see, testosterone is produced, most of the testosterone is produced in the testicles. A little bit of it is produced in the adrenal glands, which is a small gland above the kidneys. And it helps to, how should I say, differentiate those blank cells down there and eventually cause them to become sperms. So it's a long process. But we are like a manufacturing machine. Every day, once that process starts, you're going to be making them until you die. Once there is testosterone, once there is nothing humbugging that system, you are going to be making testosterone making sperms until you die. Now, just think about it. If you are always manufacturing, you're always making it, where it going? Ask yourself that question. Where it going? Well, the way the Lord designed it is to go either into a female or into your bed or somewhere, but you got to go to somewhere. So that is the idea behind, the reasoning behind why people have to have a wet bed every now and then or to have sex. No, I know I'm in a religious situation, and you're like, boy. I know that is not something that you might be comfortable hearing, but you are making sperms. Your prostate, which is a gland, is making the fluid for the sperms and a few other little glands thereby. So you're going to have this buildup. And a lot of young men end up with a lot of pain in this area once a month, twice a month. It is painful because they're full of this stuff inside it that wants to come out. Sometimes it gets so painful it goes back down into the testicles and it hurts. Especially after you go across there to pass some urine, and you come back and say, oh my goodness, what happened in here? That's just you, being you. All right? And it can get so painful that sometimes you got to go lie down. And then, wait a minute, is only me alone them things happen to? Oh, you know what? Yeah. So you've got to understand that these things happen to people, and especially the young boy who's growing up, who's having all these surges, and the testosterone is just getting at him. Sometimes you see these young men jumping up on motorbikes and they're just blasting through as if nobody, or they're driving in their minibuses and they want to push you aside. You're walking down in the market square and they just think that you are just a has-been used to was that needs to just get aside and they want to get through. That's their testosterone surging. Sometimes even in church situations, you get people knocking heads, young people knocking heads, and you just have to just step back and say, wait, hold a while. You got to be a Barnabas sometimes. I say, just Paul, just hold the testosterone for a while. Let's just talk this through. Let's just think this through. So testosterone does a whole lot of stuff to us, including preparing us for sex. Now, understand that is natural and that it is normal. And the way God made us is that there are two halves of the species which at some point must come together. All right? Now, how in the world are you going to come together if there is no source of attraction? You see what bees and birds and flowers do? There are attractions that will cause one to come to another, that will cause pollination of the plants, and things go on. In a similar way, men are naturally attracted to women. Can somebody please say amen? Okay, that's a relief. That's a relief. Men are naturally attracted to women. That's why Job had to say, what did Job say? I have made a covenant with my eyes not to look lustfully at a girl. Because the natural thing for you is to be attracted to women. And it gets worse if you had not had sex for a long time. I remember I was in Grenada some time ago, several years ago, and I had a friend who was in the army. And he had gone for basic training for 6 weeks. And they had him all over the place, doing all kinds of things through the jungles. And then he came back home and he was saying to me, he said, boy, they bring us down in a big truck. And as I enter town, every woman looked good. He was being honest, is the truth. He said, boy, every woman looked good. 6 weeks he'd been out in the jungle with a bunch of men shooting guns, drilling up and down the place. And now he suddenly is reminded of his own humanity and his own sexuality. So it's not that you can't be attracted, but it's what you do with that attraction. And I've said before David lost it. Job was able to hold on to his control. And that is what is expected. Because you have to know that at some point in your life, you have had or will continue to have testosterone surges. That is why the Bible advises us, drink water from your own cistern.
All right.
Drink water from your own cistern. Because the Bible knew that you will need to drink from time to time. Now, one study suggests that the average young person, the average young virile man needs to have sex at least once every 3 days. That's one study. Yeah? For some of us, we need more than that. For others of us, we can wait. For others of us, I said. I'm not talking about you. I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about for others of us. You understand what I'm saying? But you are having, you remember that machine keeps going. It keeps going. And when I go to conference, I take a question in a while. When I go to conference, I keep, where both sexes are there, I keep telling the women, ladies, listen. After sex, your husband is like a cat. He's purring or he's snoring there because he's content, he's happy. Tomorrow, the cat wakes up and he starts to prowl around. By tomorrow evening, the next morning, the cat now becomes a tiger. By the second or third or fourth day, that tiger becomes a lion. You got to feed the lion. You got to feed the lion. Otherwise, if you don't feed the lion, he's going to be roaring all over the place. He's going to get aggressive. He's going to be yelling. He's going to be short-tempered. That's who we are. We love it. We love it. You understand what I'm saying? So the lady has to understand that I have a machine that is working all the time. And the machine is producing. I have my products that I have to sell. Help a boy out. You understand what I'm talking about? Yeah, thank you very much, sir. It's not stopping. Otherwise, my bed is going to get wet. Do you understand? And that tiger, that lion needs to be fed on a regular basis if you're going to keep him under control. So we have to understand that because of the way we are made, fearfully and wonderfully, we have a machine that is working continuously. We have surges that are coming on us continuously. We have to drink water from our own cisterns. And drink it regularly. And at the same time, control our eyes and control our urges outside of the home. If you do that, you will live happily ever after. Okay? But understand this. In the sexual side of things, there is the other side. Because the ladies, they have very little testosterone. They have estrogen to deal with. And estrogen, it helps to mature the eggs. It helps with to maintain the integrity and the development of the vaginal wall. Helps to make the vagina a little bit more acidic, so it doesn't get frequent infections. Helps with breast development. And they don't have the benefit of testosterone for muscle development, so they don't have as big muscle as you have. They have a little more fat in their system to make them soft and rounded and curved, just the way you like them. All right? I'm sorry, I'm in church. You understand?
You're in a liberated church.
All right? So you understand the situation there? But their system works in cycles. All right? They're working in cycles. And sometimes the cycle stops. So you got a problem. Now, while you are a tiger or a lion needing to be fed every day, they are like a, like a little flower that you have to take care of. You have to take care of. Now, here's a problem. You need to have sex every day, or so you think, or every other day, or every 3 days. For her, once a month is fine. Because really, in truth, that's how often she produces the egg. Now, if you think about sexuality in terms of reproduction, she can only reproduce and become reproductive once a month. So she has hormones in her that goes in waves and cycles. Do you understand? So at times, there'll be times when she feels that way, and the other times when she does not feel that way. But we got a tiger over here.
So you understand?
So there are times when that tiger has to just crouch and just behave. Because she is not ready. Or if the tiger or the lion is smart, he can help to make her ready. Do you see? So there has to be interaction because the two halves must come together. Now let me stop here and just put a word in for the women who are 45 to 55. Do you know that, I don't have it as gospel, but it was suggested to me some time ago that in our country, the divorce rate goes up between 45 and 55. And it happens a lot over the world. Do you know what I think is the main reason? Menopause. Menopause it brings a tremendous strain on the female and the male. So just think about what I just told you. You are a tiger, you need to have sex every day or as often as you want. She thinks it's once a month. Now she thinks it's never. She thinks that you must retire because she's retiring from her periods, from her cycles. Her factory is shutting down, yours is just beginning to G up. So you see the problem we have there? So now, supply can't keep up with demand. That's bad economics. There you go. So you got a problem. So during this time, there's a lot of problems in the home with respect to sexuality. Because not only is she shutting down from the point of view of producing those eggs, but estrogen begins to go down. Now think about some of the things that estrogen used to do that it no longer does. It used to keep the vaginal cavity and walls well lubricated, healthy. Now the vagina gets dry. The man does not know that or doesn't understand that. And she is thinking, where is he going with this thing to put inside of me that is dry and does not want it? Stop and think about that for a while. To her, that is torture. So then what do you do? Thankfully, in modern medicine, we have lubricants. So you can buy, KY has a vaginal lubricant that you can use, and it helps to keep the vagina moist during intercourse. So you have to take longer in preparing her, because not that she has gone dry totally, but now it takes a longer time for her to get warmed up. Think of the fact that now she has the chance of having more infections. She can be having problems. Think about the fact that when you suddenly withdraw estrogen, it's like withdrawing alcohol. Things go haywire. She is hot all the time. Well, not all the time, almost all the time. She gets these hot flushes. She is irritable. When you stop estrogen, suddenly she begins to have headaches. If she used to have migraine headaches, they'll get worse. I've seen of a few women who go stark, staring, crazy, mad, need to be locked up in the madhouse. There are some women who, one moment want to see their husbands. Now, the next moment, they want to just tear into him and tear. But your machine still works. It's still going. But she doesn't want to have it. So you not only have to understand your sexuality, but understand hers. Especially during those menopause years. So you have to learn how to deal with that. Okay? Come into your wife, all right? So that is now the next thing men have to come to terms with is that after the teenage life, the testosterone level begins to drop imperceptibly through the years. Something up to 1% per year, it goes down. It means then that you are not going to be as aggressive as you used to be. Maybe not as sexually up and about as you used to be. A funny thing happened to me some time ago. I was in the office and a gentleman came in to me and he said, "Doc, I have a problem." I said, "Well, what's the problem?" He was probably in his 20s. He said, "I noticed that when I have sex with my girlfriend, I can't go back and have sex again for another half an hour." And I was like, I wanted to just burst out laughing, but you had to keep a professional face. I just said, "You're doing good." But he can't understand. You see, in his teenage life, he's going to be like, boom, every 10 minutes he's going again. But now it's half an hour. He's like, well, something is wrong with me. No, you're just growing older. So I'm like that boy. If it's me, next day I'm still sleepy next day. I am still trying to catch myself next day. But he's talking about half an hour later. You understand? You understand how the teenagers behave? So now he's in his 20s and he's beginning to experience his first bit of tapering off. He was like, "Doc, help a guy out." "I'm helping you out. You okay? You are normal." That's normal also. All right? That's normal. So, as you get into your 30s and then 40s, you find that you used to want to jump in the sack every night. Now you can skip a night and then you can skip 2 nights, and if I remember when I had just gotten married, I used to know the day when my wife is going to have her periods. Because I got a plan. I got a plan for because when periods, boy, what I'm going to do, boy, I got to count when she going to have her periods and how many days the period going to last and what I'm going to do in that time. You get older, you're just like, oh, okay, I can hang. I can wait, it's okay, it's all right. So I used to know her period dates even when she didn't know. It was September the 15th. And they look at me as like, "What? Yeah. It's my duty to know because I have to plan." You understand? So as you get older, those urges begin to taper off. And sometimes there's a dramatic drop-off to the point where you don't have those urges anymore, and sometimes your erectile function goes down. Now, that's not the only cause for erectile dysfunction. There are lots of other causes. But sometimes some men have a dip in their testosterone production, and during that time, their interest in sex begins to fade. Sometimes you begin also, as your testosterone tapers off, your muscle mass diminishes. You don't burn fat as you normally do, and so as we get older, in our 40s, 50s, and 60s, we begin to put on a little tire around the waist and the belly. That's testosterone is dropping off. But have no fear, it usually does not go to zero. And there is hope for you. Amen. While there is life, there is hope. That's what you want to hear. Hallelujah. So to move on, it brings us to the point of erectile dysfunction. That is to say, when everything is pointing south and you can't go east or north anymore. Now,
Demilitarized zone.
yeah. So suddenly you find that, well, I got a problem here. I used to be able to have sex and have a complete encounter, but now halfway through I'm running out of steam. And I can't keep an erection anymore, or something I can't even initiate an erection. Even though I may have the desire, even though I have the feeling, something has suddenly gone wrong with the mechanism. Well, there are two main reasons, apart from the drop in the testosterone levels, there are two main reasons why some people have erectile dysfunction or impotence. It's usually either vascular, meaning blood, or it's nerves. A third reason is mind. So let's talk about the blood. Now, in order for you to have an erection, your penis must be filled with blood. Okay? It's filled up with blood. The blood rushes in. The venous channels get blocked so it doesn't go out. So more blood goes in than goes out, and of course, it swells up. And it gets hot because of the warm blood inside. Sometimes, because of underlying diseases, the amount of blood going into that penis is not enough to get it erect. Diabetes, for example, causes that. High blood pressure, where the channels get blocked up with plaques, with atherosclerosis, and previously blood flowed through, now blood can hardly flow through. So you see that in some people. There are a few people, we see it happening in younger people, where they have problems with the veins. So the blood rushes in, but it rushes back out because the venous channels, the gates don't work properly. We had a sad situation some years ago where I had to speak to somebody, young Christian couple getting married, and then after they got married, they weren't able to consummate the marriage because he was not able to get an erection. And they had to, of course, be referred for counseling. You see that whenever you see erectile dysfunction in young people, in the teenagers, the early teens, you have to think it's possibly due to some kind of venous problems. But it's still a blood problem. The next section is a group of people who have problems because of nerves. The nervous impulse going to the penis doesn't work. Again, things like diabetes can do it, and other diseases that affect the nerve to the penis. But then the third area is the head is not working in connecting to the penis. Either because of embarrassment, because of fear, because of past history. Unless the brain sends that message down, it doesn't work properly. I was in the office one day and a young man came to me and said, "Doc, I'm not having an erection anymore." I said, "What's happening?" He said, "Well, I don't know. It's just not working properly. I mean, he said, I try to have sex with my girlfriend and it just doesn't work." So I said, "Well, tell me the story." He said, "Well, my girlfriend came home from Barbados and I just can't have sex." So I said to him, "Do you get an erection when you wake up one morning?" He said, "Yeah, that works fine." He said, "How about with other girls?" He said, "Yes, it works good with other women." And then when you got to the bottom of the story, he was cheating on his girlfriend, but when the girl came back, he was scared that she would find out. So every time he approached her, he just could not keep his mind focused on sex, but he was worried that she gonna kill him or something. So sometimes your mind works. And so you can tell whether or not it's mind or matter. The way we do that is that we ask the person the question, do you have erections on morning? If you can have erection, if you wake up with an erection or have one shortly after you wake up, it tells me that your mechanism is working properly. Okay? The whole cycle is working properly. But if you can have erections and they're normal, but yet when it's time for having sex, you are not performing, then there is something wrong with a mind to matter cycle. Okay? And it happens to a lot of people. But if you can And sometimes, in the old days, what we used to do the postage stamp trick. And we don't have, not many people buy stamps these days or buy a book of stamps. But in America, you used to buy a book of stamps. And so one of the things they used to do is to get part of the book, get a roll off the roll, and just put it around the penis at night before you go to bed. Okay? And just stick the ends together. And if tomorrow morning when you wake up, it's broken, it means that you had an erection during the night. Because normally, a normal male should have an erection 4 to 6 times a night. But just that you don't know about it. All right? You sleep. It just happened. The mechanism needs to keep working, So you have to decide whether it is a mind problem or a matter problem. And the doctor can help you to do that. There are some people who are having problems with erections because of diseases, like I said, like diabetes, like hypertension, and we can help with using certain medications like Viagra or Cialis or one of those, providing that your heart and so on is okay. There are some people, who, for example, in the case where the nerve is gone, where you can't do anything. And in America, we don't do that one in St. Vincent, but in America, you could insert a shaft into the penis, a rubberized shaft into the penis, which gives you a permanent erection, so you can have sex anytime you want. That young man will be happy to know that. There are others where you can insert a reservoir into the shaft of the penis with a bag outside, and you can pump it up every time you need to have an erection, and you let it out, So what I'm trying to say to you is that you can still be sexually active no matter if something happens. The doctor has ways and means of keeping you active if it's available in your country. Now, let me say something that allow you to have your question time, since our time is gone. One final thing. Men, like we said, begin to notice a drop-off in their sexual prowess and sexual activity as they get older. What the research seems to be showing is that if you stay active sexually, the drop-off is less. In other words, if testosterone is stimulated also by sexual activity. So the stimulation you would get otherwise from having sex, if you stop having it, then the amount of stimulation drops off, and therefore your testosterone level also peters off. So that's one thing we know. We are also learning that if you stay active, competitive, then your sexual activity and sexual prowess seem to taper off less. So what we say to men as they get middle-aged and get older is to stay active. Stay active, exercise, do your running, do your competitive stuff, and where possible, if you're still married, have sex as often as you can have it and as often as your wife will allow you. And it will keep the system charged up. It will keep the system revved up. And who knows, it might help you to live longer. I don't have any proof that more sex makes you live longer, but at least it helps to keep you stress-free. I'll take your questions.
We've been dealing with a subject, speaking about managing change. Mm-hmm. And I think that when you get to a situation like that, where you're dysfunctional at such an early period, especially people who are Christians, you have to behave different. Because I don't know, the married vow seems to be very challenging.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't know if we're listening for better, for worse. Is it scriptural, Bishop?
Yeah.
When I counsel people, I ask them to know what rich or poor means. What does for sickness and health mean?
Good.
But the better worse, if they don't know know what it means, I'm not going to ask.
So,
That's an insertion. It's a euphemism for better for worse.
so the point is,
When you marry this guy, it wasn't serious.
so the point is, good. What is the purpose when you got married? What motivated you? What drove you into marriage? Is it sex? Because it's not going to remain the same. But would you be willing to compromise? As a Christian, you should stay with your partner and pray to ask God to control the lion.
My question is around I've heard the statistic of the 3-day study. So I wanted to know what was the age range of the study.
Like I said, I don't have all the details of that. I got it secondhand. But what we do know is that after 18, 19, your testosterone level would have peaked and will plateau, and then will gradually taper off. So some people have also postulated that man is at his most sexually virulent between 18 and 25, where for the woman, she hits her peak at 35, but then tapers off. So,
18 and 25?
Yeah. That's what, but the thing about it is that for the man, it tapers off, but for the woman, it's a bigger drop off. I don't know if that's true because I didn't get that as a direct research. I got that secondhand. I think behind there.
Yes, Doc. We know that prostate cancer has different causes. But is there any correlation between the absence of sex and the development of prostate cancer?
Not that I know of. As a matter of fact, that has been that was a theory that was once postulated, and none of these studies seem to suggest it. The frightening thing is that 50% of men over 50 have what's called a precancerous condition in their prostate. And the question is, what transformed that from being that into all-out cancer? We don't know. Maybe we need more studies to come to a conclusion. But the initial studies that were done did not seem to suggest that, for example, black men get more prostate cancer because they have more sex than anybody else. I don't know that to be true. Yes, sir.
Yes, my question is, how important is masturbating? Is there any effect,
Okay.
the good, the bad?
People have asked those questions
Problems?
over and over. What we do know is masturbation can reduce your sensitivity over the head of the penis, because you're doing something in a natural way. So you can reduce the sensitivity over what we call the glands, particularly if it's not covered, if you're not circumcised. But sometimes you need to do it if you are in a medical situation. For example, if the doctor wants to get some sperms, because if you have to check to see if your sperm count is normal, he will tell you, I need some semen. So how do you think you're going to get it? You understand what I'm saying? Yeah, you get milk. All right? So I know that sounds kind of like, oh my goodness, but do you understand? There are two sides to the masturbation story that you, from a medical point of view, that I look at. But the other thing I have to stress is that you have to control the sexuality even outside of marriage, right? And if you are trying to give an outlet to your improper and impure thoughts, then of course that is abhorrent, that is wrong, and so on. But like I said, in a medical condition, or I don't have a word from God as far as that in it. Okay.
Yeah, Doc. Continue and say masturbation. Understand it also have some health effects, like some, however that they say, it affect your eyes.
I don't know that. I really don't know that. I should have pointed out, it can also decrease your time to ejaculation, meaning that because of, I don't know if it's the mental part of it, but some of the studies have shown that if the people who masturbate seem to ejaculate early and sometimes prematurely. But I need to show about that one. Okay?
Yeah, okay. Now, menopause.
Menopause, yes.
You spoke about men not,
Menopause.
men, if they don't be educated on this subject, they can have a lot of problems in their
Yes.
marriage. Because some of them people complain that you want to give them no sex.
Yes.
They don't know. Because you outline some of the period they go through. Hot flashes,
Yeah.
heat, they're fussy,
Depression, yeah.
they lose or gain weight.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
And some men don't understand this. And some of them feel you went into some infidelity or she
Right.
cheating and so on. Because how they behave, because of how persons complain about how the women behave. And it points to menopause.
Yes.
So the education, if it is lacking, could cause a lot of problem like divorce and so on in marriage, as you said.
Yes, and I would suggest that pastors and preachers take this into consideration, especially when counseling couples in the over 30, in the over 40 category, that they have to let them know that, boy, you have to begin to prepare for this period that is going to be tumultuous, especially for the woman, naturally so, I mean directly so, and indirectly to the man. And care and time ought to be taken to get couples to understand. And it is best, to my mind, trashed out in couples therapy, where you can have a lot of couples who can share what's going on or what went on, so that the younger ones come up and say, well, it's not all that bad. I got to put up with it. It's okay. She won't come around. All right?
Yeah, another question there.
Okay,
One
and then I'll
minute,
take
one
it
minute,
there.
yes. No, you mentioned that some reasons for weak erections.
Mm-hmm.
No, you mentioned like blood, mind, black arteries and so on.
Yeah.
Now, dieting could be one of the problems. What you eat and so on could cause you to.
I
Lose
don't know that for sure.
erection?
But what we are finding out is that study after study is showing most of the things that is happening to the human body these days is usually lifestyle and or diet driven. Most of the cancers, if you look at the cancers and you ask, for example, what is a risk factor for breast cancer, for colon cancer, for prostate cancer, all the cancers, they say diet high in fats. People who are obese. You see it being repeated over and over and over. So I would not be surprised if the research shows that there is some correlation with that, but I don't know of it at this point. Okay?
Okay. Drugs and alcohol is also
Yes,
a factor?
most definitely. Drugs and alcohol,
Okay.
especially alcohol. All right? Yes, sir.
Yes.
You mentioned that pastors during pre-counseling, there are certain things they need to let a couple know, even about their sexuality. But we also have to agree here, or should agree, that the pastors have to be mindful of the areas that may come up in which they're not skilled.
Right.
Because you're a pastor, you don't have all the answer. You're not an expert in this field.
Right.
So why not send that person? He's going to do what he can
Yes.
to the proper source.
Well, yes. I mean, I agree with you. I agree
And
with that.
because as you scare me, you talk about you falling off between 18 and 25, that's like a death sentence.
No, what I,
That's a death sentence right there. And but let me come off the floor and let you walk on that.
remember what I said is it's not a drop off, it's a tapering off. You lose about 1%.
But you're dying too soon.
You don't get let me expand a bit and say that you don't get the big drop-offs until you're like 49, 50, and you start going off, all right? But usually between 20 and 40, you maintain a level of testosterone that is enough for normal sexual function. I was reading one article yesterday which says that, you know, you even down into your 70s and 80s, you still produce enough testosterone for normal sexual function. You may not be as aggressive as you were when you were 18. Your muscles probably don't develop as big when you're 18, 19, and 20. And if you look, most our athletic ability peaks around those times. When a sprinter gets 24, 25, he's beginning to get old. All right? Especially because testosterone also has an effect on growth hormone and so on and so forth. So I'm in your sympathy. I understand, but I'm heading there too. We are all heading there. Yes, sir.
Yes. When a couple now get married, right? They do have kids, so their sex life gonna be excited over a period.
Yeah.
We know when then kids start to come along, you have to shift a time frame and so forth. The question is it better to have sex before you go sleep, or wake up in the morning and all three?
Could I point you to the Bible on that one? The Bible says that we should not keep it from one another except for prayer. Except for prayer. So if by mutual agreement. So like Brother Pastor here said, all of the above is whenever, how often, except by mutual agreement and by prayer. You understand? There are some people who are more happy at nights, the others in the morning. So high daytime? Yes. Oh yeah. It does not matter. So, and you know, all you looking at me is kind of strange. All you know what I'm talking about. Sometimes you go home and you catch the poor wife off guard. She's like, oh, honey, I'm home. Oh, yeah, good to see you home. And you're like, yeah, I am home, you know. I'm ready to come home. And she's like, boy, go back to work. No, go back to work. I came home for a purpose. Yeah. You got to feed the tiger. You know, there's sometimes my wife would say, boy, why didn't you just go to sleep? I said, no, I have to defend the brotherhood. I have to. I said, I have to defend the brotherhood. I can't make the boys feel look bad. I have to defend the brotherhood. We have a good laugh about that one. So, if you need to go home and defend the brotherhood, my brother, defend all you can. 10 o'clock, midnight, 2 o'clock, defend the brotherhood. Yes.
Yes. Not necessarily a question, but some comments. It's good to see how God works, because I showed you was not here during the morning session. And just what we were discussing, you came now and just capsule it, you know. But it's very strange to see how some people could react to the same stuff. My wife then, my former ex-wife, are deceased now. Sometimes when she is not in the mood, you don't touch her.
Yep,
you know?
that is true.
I mean, I had to dig deep now to find out how to deal with that, you know.
But if you're a man, most men are inventive enough to find out how to get around it. Yeah, some women who like when I say don't touch me, don't touch me. Yeah, go ahead.
And she being a nurse too, would have taught me quite a few lessons. You mentioned a few like being diabetic or even hypertension, certain drugs that will. But then, what she would have taught me then, it doesn't mean that I don't want to have sex, but you just have to, if you arouse me, then I will get into it. Yeah. And that's one thing I learned, you know, so I never suffer much effect from that because of the fact that she taught me that, you know. She died and then I'm married, but no.
But the lesson learned is a lesson learned is a lesson learned.
Yeah. But my wife now, I telling you the truth, she believe in pleasuring her husband. I use the word pleasure because she use that regular, you know. And even though at times when she may not necessarily, quote unquote, want to get into it because she recognize that I am married and if my husband need it, then I have to put myself in there, you know. I think it means that me as men too, we have to understand the women quite a bit
Yes.
in that we're only human and you might not necessarily be ready in gear. So you just back away for a while,
Yes.
you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
And-
Yeah. Sorry. Go ahead. Yeah. The point is well taken. Like I said, it's two halves of the species that need to come together at some point. All right, and we have to make ourselves acceptable to the other. And we can't just think that because we have a machine that is whirring and needs to go, that there's always going to be a receptacle open for us. It may not be. And so we have to learn to come to terms with that and be there for each other. And we talk about mutual. Mutual means mutual, you know, because mutual can be one. Mutual implies at least two. But there are some men who just think that I have to bulldoze my way into my wife every day. Think about the pain and hurt you cause that woman if she's not properly lubricated. And always remember that a woman needs to be prepared, needs to be properly lubricated. She makes her own lubrication. It's the way God made her. But sometimes the fright, the fear, the anger, the hostility can cause her to remain dry during intercourse and can make sex very painful. Okay, so men always think about that because if sex is painful to the woman now, next time you come back, she's going to be in fear and trepidation. And then she remains dry again, and then the cycle is repeated and she gets bruised and battered. Yes, sir?
I have one quick question. I heard this word anthropause used.
Yeah.
Is there any medical support?
Yeah. There are times in some men where there is a dip in the testosterone. We've seen it already. There's a dip in the testosterone, and he's not as energetic as before. His muscle mass drops off. The fat increases. The interest in sex, we said, is gone, and the wife wants to know what's going on. Some time ago, I was in a situation where the female asked, she said, "Doc, I have a problem." And she said, my husband's penis doesn't seem to be as big as it used to be. And I was just like, okay. And so we got into a conversation, and she was concerned that, well, he is losing his mass and she's not being satisfied as she used to be. About 2 or 3 months later, I said, "So what's going on now?" He said, "Doc, it's back to normal now." You know, she was happy. She was smiling again because, you know, for her it was important. All right. So there are times when you can have a drop, and sometimes for one reason or another, some of it is medically related. You're taking medications or whatever it is. The testosterone level drops off. Oh, and by the way, I should have mentioned, I forgot, in that now modern medicine can top you up. So as you begin to, if the testosterone level begins to go below the level where it is beginning to cause you some dysfunction, a lack of interest and other things like that, we can give you a testosterone patch or a testosterone injection, which is going to bring it back up. Of course, there's drawback side effects, but all is not lost. If the issue is...
What is about side effect?
Yes.
With the injection?
Yeah. Okay, so testosterone injections can be bad for people who have prostate cancer, because as you know, as you may or may not know, prostate cancer is an androgen, can be what we call androgen sensitive, and so the more testosterone, the more aggressive the tumor can be. Sometimes, in order to treat prostate cancer, we castrate people. And in other words, you're removing the testosterone drive. And if you do that, you lose testosterone, you lose your ability to have erection, you lose all this stuff, but you're alive. And your wife will be happy. All right? Your wife will be happy. They prefer to have a living husband, even though he is not performing in bed, than to have one dead and going to the grave performing. Yeah, yeah. All right. Yeah. Yeah, you can put a shaft into. Yes, you can still have artificial fellowship. All right, let me I think our time is gone. Let me thank you very much.